From South Carolina Public Radio, this is Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. Hi, I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray, and you better not be throwing away your shot because it's Broadway week here on Who, What, When.
That's right, Brandon. We've got our eyes on history, just like history had its eyes on Hamilton, and we know other Broadway plays than that.
Trust us.
Coming up, we'll test your knowledge of celebrities who got their start on the stage, reminisce about movie adaptations of stage musicals, and share stories of Broadway shows that are maybe too bizarre to be real.
That's right, but you're going to have to wait for it. Dang it, another Hamilton. If you'd like to join us for these games, just call or text us 803-470-6347. That's 803-470-6347. Or you can send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org. You'll get a chance to earn the title of Who, What, When Champion of the Week. And if that's not big enough, you'll also get a chance to get our very special prize. You know it, you love it. It's the Who, What, When Fanny Pack.
That's right, Brandon. A disclaimer for our musical-loving fans who aren't in the room where it happens. Oh, we did it again. Our quizzes today will feature a few questions about London's West End, basically England's Broadway. We ask your forgiveness in advance for these brief British digressions.
Thank you, Dan.
And Bran, before the curtains go up, I'd like to set the scene by putting a special spotlight on theater's biggest award, the Tonys.
Ah, yes, Big Tony, as I call it, the much-vaunted T of the EGOT.
You got it, Bran. The Tonys have been Broadway's most prized award since the annual ceremony kicked off in 1947.
Dan, I've always wondered, why are they called the Tonys? Is there a Big Tony out there that we don't know about?
That's a great question, Bran. And as a matter of fact, we do know where the name came from.
Okay.
The awards are named after Antoinette Tony Perry, an American actress, producer, director, and theater administrator.
Big Tony.
Born in Colorado in 1888, Perry got her start in the Denver theater scene. Her father disapproved of his daughter's dream of becoming an actress, so naturally, he sent her to New York City to study voice and piano.
Wow.
She continued pursuing acting and secured roles in Chicago and New York productions. After this success, she directed her first play in 1928, a rare role for women at the time. Despite the controversy, she went on to direct 17 Broadway plays in the next 14 years. She also co-produced the 1944 Pulitzer Prize-winning play Harvey and was chairwoman of the American Theater Wing, an organization that provided theatrical entertainment to servicemen during World War II. All of these accomplishments and more are why her colleagues were adamant that American theater's highest award be named in honor of her following her death in 1946. Perry's close friend, Louise Heimsbeck, oversaw the presentation of the first ever Tony Awards in 1947, and the rest is history, Brand.
You know what I got to say to that?
What?
Bravo!
Thanks.
Bravo!
You brought me flowers, which is
Yes,
nice.
I did.
Antoinette Perry remains the most important Tony in Broadway history, but she is far from the only one.
What do you mean by that, Dan?
What I mean is that not one, not two, not three, but 6 people named Tony have won American theater's top award in the years since OG Tony left her indelible mark on the theater profession.
Multiple Big Tonys.
Multiple.
Well, you know what they say about Broadway? It's a real Tony's club.
Yeah, the Tonys winning Tony streak began back in 1961 when Adrian and Tony Duquette won for Best Costume Design for their work on the musical Camelot.
Right.
Yeah, of course. In 1973, Tony Walton won the Scenic Designer Award for his work on Pippin. Big Broadway head. He goes on to win 2 more Tonys for Scenic Design, one for his work on The House of Blue Leaves in 1986 and another in 1992 for Guys and Dolls. And Mr. Walton isn't the only Tony winning Scenic Design Tonys. Between Tony W's wins, Tony Stragus takes home the Scene Design Tony for Sunday in the Park with George in 1984.
I didn't know that one.
Okay.
I got to be honest, Dan, I'm getting lost in the Tonys. Can I get a Tony head count, if you don't mind?
Of course you can, Brand. So far, we have 3 Tony winning Tonys: Tony Duquette, Tony Walton, and Tony Stragus. Buckle up, because we're only halfway through.
We're just at the 2.
That's right. In 1992, Tony Kushner's Angels in America wins Best Play, and as if that wasn't enough for Tonys, Kushner wins again the next year in 1993 with the second part of Angels in America. We can take a second to breathe here because there's a bit of a break in the Tony streak. That is until 2010, when Memphis wins Best Musical and producer Tony Ponturo takes home one of the trophies.
Wow. Well, Dan, I've been keeping myself a little Tony tally in my head, and if my math is correct, which it usually is not, that leaves us with one final Tony.
Your math is on point, Bran. You're exactly right. The final, as of this recording, Tony-winning Tony, is none other than Tony Shalhoub. Monk. Tony Shalhoub won Best Actor in a Musical in 2018 for his role in The Band's Visit. Who's to say who the next Tony-winning Tony will be, Bran? If this story can teach us anything, it's that there's a big, beautiful world of Tonys out there.
This has been a true education of Broadway history. Thank you so much, Dan. And with that, I think it's time for us to meet our contestants for the day. And if one of them is named Tony, I swear I will sing the entire episode.
I'm going to hold you to it, Bran.
Contestant number one, what's your name and where are you from?
Good morning. My name is Steve, and I'm from Conway, South Carolina.
Steve from Conway, South Carolina. Steve, you a big Broadway fan?
No, not particularly, but I think I have enough awareness.
Have you seen a play?
No.
Steve, you've never seen a play?
You've never seen one on
Never.
Broadway? Or you've never seen one, period?
Never seen a Broadway play. I've seen a lot of Broadway movies adapted from the play.
Fair. That's going to help you a lot here.
Sure.
This is just proof once again that when you call into Who What When, nobody knows the topic. It could be literally anything. Steve has never seen a play, but he is locked and loaded.
But he's
ready
to play.
Oh, I see what you're doing. All right, who's Steve going to be going up against? That's caller number two. Caller number two, what's your name? Where are you from?
My name is Jordan, and I am from North Charleston, South Carolina.
Jordan from North Charleston, South Carolina. That's right. Conway and North Charleston, some vacation adjacent spot. Jordan, you a big Broadway fan?
Huge.
Really? Jordan, you got a favorite Broadway experience or favorite Broadway play?
I want to say Wicked, but I do like Company.
Okay.
Wow.
All right. He wasn't. Jordan wasn't kidding.
As soon as he said Company, we all knew we were in for it.
Jordan, have you ever been in a play before?
Several, yes. Actually.
Oh, okay. So this is,
Later today, I am going to rehearsals for a community theater production of 13 the Musical.
So this also goes to show you the contestants don't know before they call in. Steve, you're already in an uphill battle right now, my friend.
But Steve, don't let Jordan intimidate you, okay?
Yeah.
This anyone's game.
But also, you need to know this. If you ever listen to Who What When, you know that this is not going to be just some rote quiz about Broadway plays. Steve's going to have just as much of an opportunity.
We're going to have some fun
else.
with it.
Jordan from North Charleston and Steve from Conway, thank you for joining us today. We'll be starting out with a little game we're calling Hamilton.
Do we know anything else?
We're just Hamilton.
Okay.
Really.
Stephen Jordan, Hamilton is about celebrities who got their start on the stage. We'll give you a little description of the star, and your job is to pick the correct performer out of the three names that we give you. Name the celebrity, you'll win yourself a point.
Steve, the first question in Hamilton goes to you. Before joining his brothers on the Disney Channel and Camp Rock, among others, or starring opposite Paul Rudd in Power Ballad, as a youngster, this soon-to-be boy band superstar performed on Broadway in both Annie Get Your Gun and Les Miserables. Is that correct? Les Miserables? Les Miserables? Is that... I've always said Les Mis.
Maybe we should ask Jordan.
Les Miserables. What is it? What is
Les
it?
Miserables.
Les Miserables.
Yeah.
Okay.
I knew that one.
Great. In both. All right, Steve. You want to come host the damn show?
So I have the question.
I'm going to give you choices, Steve. I'm sorry. We got sidetracked by me not knowing how to speak French. Or Les Miserables. Is that A, Taylor Hanson, B, Harry Styles, or C, Nick Jonas?
I'm going to go with Nick Jonas.
Ooh.
He's going to go with Nick Jonas out the gate, and he is correct. Nick Jonas, your boy. Brand.
I love Camp Rock. I love Power Ballad. I love the Jonas Brothers. I love the Jonas Brothers' new podcast. I'm all in on the Joe Bros.
So cool, man. You're
Thank
so
you.
cool. I will say this about the Joe Bros. I don't have any of that pedigree.
Sure.
Nick Jonas was excellent in a television show called Kingdom, an MMA show. He's great. He's the one of those three that are good actors. And also, their Christmas movie, actually a lot of fun.
There you go.
That's what I'll say.
Look
And
at
Steve
you.
is correct, and he's on the board, and I said something nice about the Joe Bros. We're all winning. It's Who, What, When. We're playing Hamilton to talk about these celebrities that got their start on the stage. Jordan, here's your first question. Over 7 years before his life-changing turn as George Costanza in Seinfeld, this actor got started on Broadway as Joe Josephson in Stephen Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along. Is that A, Michael Richards, B, Jason Alexander, or C, Larry David?
I want to say Larry David, and also they're making a Camp Rock 3.
Oh, Jordan, I know.
Oh, listen, you and Bran are lockstep on the Camp Rock 3. Is your guess Larry David?
Yes.
Larry David is incorrect.
Oh.
Yeah, Larry David helped create Seinfeld, and the character of George Costanza is based off of Larry David, but the actor that played him that was also in Sondheim's Merrily We Roll Along, Jason Alexander.
Okay.
That's what we're looking for. All right.
It's still early.
It's early.
It's still early.
This guy has great Broadway pedigree. I asked him a Seinfeld question well before he was born, decades before he was born. Here we go. Steve, the board is back to you. See if you can guess this celebrity that started on Broadway. It was before he lent his dulcet tones to the narration of Shawshank Redemption, or explained how those penguins marched, or even before being nominated for Driving Miss Daisy, $1 Million Baby, or Invictus, that he made his Broadway debut all the way back in 1967 in Hello, Dolly. Is that A, Ed Harris, B, Morgan Freeman, or C, Tim Robbins?
That's Morgan Freeman.
That is Morgan Freeman, and he is correct once again. The movie knowledge has come in handy, I think, for Steve.
I think
so far.
so. I think so.
That's right. All right, Jordan, back to you. Let's see if we can get you on the board here. We're playing Hamilton, all these stars that started on the stage. Here's your next question. Before becoming the third live-action lead of Peter Parker in Spider-Man Homecoming, this British actor starred in the lead role in the West End's Billy Elliot. Is that A, Tom Holland, B, Andrew Garfield, C, Tobey Maguire?
While they were all Spider-Man, Tom Holland is the current face of Spider-Man.
That is correct. Tom Holland is the current face of Spider-Man. And he was also Billy Elliot, the lead as a dancer. That's how he can do all those stunts. He does most of his stunts.
I know.
Is all that dancing
I know.
he was doing as a kid. All that Billy Ellioting he was doing. That's exactly right.
A lot of next time you look at Spider-Man, just thank Billy Elliot.
Okay. Steve, your next question here on Hamilton. See if you can get that lead back up to 2. Here it comes. This South Carolina native first graced the stage in an August Wilson play in 1988 and then landed a Broadway role in the original cast of 7 Guitars in 1996, all before her rise to fame, which included the lead in a Shonda Rhimes ABC mystery and Oscar nominations and a win in screen adaptations of Broadway plays like Doubt and Fences. Is that A, Octavia Spencer, B, Halle Berry, C, Viola Davis?
Oh, this one. I'm trying to think of which one of those is a South Carolina native.
Aha.
I think I'm going to go with Viola Davis.
He thinks he's going to go with Viola Davis, and he
Yes, I am going to go.
He is, we have confirmed, going to go with Viola Davis. And he is correct.
Ooh, I did not
Viola
know she was a
Davis.
South Carolina native.
So here's the thing: is she was born in St. Matthews, South Carolina,
Okay.
and then moved to Rhode Island as a very, very young child.
That's interesting.
So, like when you
That's fair, because if I'm just using the South Carolina native, I might have gone with Octavia Spencer because
that's
she
correct.
sounds
She's from
more
the South.
Southern. Yeah,
she's from the South. Viola Davis was born in St. Matthews, grew up in Rhode Island. A little bit tricky there.
Tricky. But the rest of the clue is very helpful.
Yeah. Also, Viola Davis in Fences, an absolute tour de force. High recommend. Yeah, and the Woman King as well. Oh my God. Or, oh my God, are you kidding me right now? All right, Steve. Perfect game so far. Jordan, the board is back to yours. Here's your next question. These are celebrities who, before they were famous, got their start on the stage. We should have known he'd inevitably be the greatest showman because before Hollywood, this Aussie turned Wolverine got his start on the stage. He was on Broadway in The Boy from Oz, and singing and dancing have always been a part of his repertoire. Is that A, Hugh Jackman, B, Keith Urban, or C, Paul Hogan?
Hugh Jackman.
Hugh Jackman is correct.
Wow. How about that?
Yeah, he got Jordan got both Marvel questions and knocked him out of the park, if you can believe it. All right, it's back to a 1-point game.
Can I say this?
Please do.
This right here, Who It When,
Yeah.
I just heard, this is the greatest show.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make us the greatest showman?
I think it does make us the greatest showman.
Fair.
I would rather listen to this than watch that movie again.
Oh, stop it. I love
Here
The
we go.
Greatest Showman.
It's so bad. And I love musicals and it's bad. I'm a musical guy. The Greatest Showman is bad. It is just all a 10. It's just like hammering a gong over and over again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. It's
Feature,
terrible.
not a buck.
Yeah, no. Here we go, Steve. Your next question here on Hamilton. The world was introduced to this up-and-coming actress thanks to Up in the Air, Twilight, and Pitch Perfect. But Broadway fans knew her talent long before, as she was in the original production of High Society in 1998. Is that A, Reese Witherspoon, B, Zooey Deschanel, or C, Anna Kendrick?
Oh, I just saw Pitch Perfect. It was hilarious. I don't think it's Reese Witherspoon, so I'm going to eliminate that.
Eliminating Reese.
I'm going to go with Zoe.
He's going to go Zooey Deschanel, and for the first time all game, Steve is incorrect.
And you just saw Pitch Perfect
Just
for the first
saw
time?
Pitch Perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
Wow.
Aka, how dare you,
Yeah,
Steve?
you've got your ticket for a long way
That's
home,
right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah, she sang Cups and everything, Steve. It's Anna Kendrick. Anna Kendrick, and shout out once again to Up in the Air.
Shout out.
Underrated film, Up in the Air. Bran did go and
Twilight's
watch this. Twilight, whatever.
Also underrated.
All right, Jordan, a chance to tie it up here in our first game about celebrities who were on Broadway before they were famous. It's called Hamilton. Here we go. Before she played Glinda the Good Witch on the big screen in John Chu's Wicked adaptation, and before she was a global pop star phenomenon, this actor, singer, songwriter got her start in the original production of 13, Jordan, 13 on Broadway. Is that A, Demi Lovato, B, Olivia Rodrigo, or C, Ariana Grande?
Okay, I did not know she was in 13 musical, but it's Ariana Grande, and I love her new single.
Okay.
Jordan, isn't that the play that you're doing? You're doing community theater 13 right now? Aren't you in it? Yeah. I mean,
How about that?
gets a question about the play he's in and loves Ariana Grande's new single, which I totally have heard and know. Because I am so.
I made you love me.
What's it called?
I hate that I made you love me.
I hate that I made you love me. I'm
me.
going to check it out. That's fantastic. Also, it's a tie game.
Yeah, he's
also
correct.
fantastic. Nicely done, Jordan. Steve, the board back to you. See if you can take that lead back with your last question of the round. Here it comes. In his distinguished career, he was nominated for multiple Grammys, Tonys, Emmys, and an Oscar. Whether voicing the most memorable sci-fi villain of all time or talking baseball in The Sandlot or Field of Dreams, his voice is synonymous with Gen X and millennial childhoods. But don't discount him as a Broadway legend, where he got his start all the way back in 1958 in the play Sunrise at Campobello. Is that A, James Earl Jones, B, Denzel Washington, or C, Fred Rogers?
It's the first guy. I can't think of his. You just said
A,
his name.
James Earl Jones. Is that
James Earl Jones with that big, deep voice.
big, deep voice James Earl Jones is correct. Steve is on the board again.
But can we just for a second think about Fred Rogers in this role?
Luke,
Yeah.
I'm your father.
Let's do it. I love this.
I love you.
Just the way you are.
Use the force. Okay, here we go, Jordan. A chance to tie things up to end our game. It's the last question of the first round, all about celebrities that got their start on the stage. Of course, it's called Hamilton. Here we go. The man synonymous with the film Grease, among many others like Saturday Night Fever, actually played a different role in Grease on Broadway before he starred in the film, as well as starring in the original production of Over Here in 1974. Is that A, Rob Lowe, B, Nicolas Cage, or C, John Travolta?
I believe it's John Travolta.
Believes it's John Travolta and is correct. Nailed it. Steve says he nailed it. Steve with some encouragement for Jordan. That's what we like. That's the kind of environment we like to foster here.
Right.
That's right. It's a tie ball game. A little shout out to the film Face Off there. I hope my boy AT caught it. Nick Cage, John Travolta. They switch faces.
What's a
guys.
face off, folks?
Face Off. Brand's
we can
never
do.
seen it.
Well,
Brand's never seen it.
You're listening to Who What When. I'm Brandon Gray here with my co-host Daniel Thompson. If you want to be in the room where the quiz happens, you've come to the right place.
That's a fun little Hamilton mashup, Bran.
Thank you, Dan. Consider it, I have to imagine, the first, third, fifth, sixth of many, I think.
Okay, I take it back then. Anyway, our contestants, Jordan and Steve, had a great first act in today's Broadway edition of Who, What, When. After this brief intermission, we'll see if they can keep up that star power in a quiz about movie adaptations of musicals.
That's coming up right after this break here on Who, What, When.
Welcome back to Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my co-host, Brandon Gray, and this week we're asking the questions on everyone's mind. Who quiz? Who dies? Who tells your story? Because our topic isn't Hamilton, it's Broadway.
Are we sure?
We're pretty sure.
All right. Well, before we usher in the next quiz, a reminder that you can be a contestant on a future episode of Who, What, When. Just call or text us. 803-470-6347. That's 803-470-6347. Or open up your Yahoo account and email us, whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
I can't believe the Schuyler sisters weren't available for this week's
tell you
episode,
what.
Brian. We've got South Carolinians Jordan and Steve playing with us today. After strong performances from both in round one, it's time to put them to the test with our next game called The King and IMAX.
Very nice. Steve and Jordan, in this game, we'll describe a movie adaptation of a musical and give you 3 possible titles. Tell us the correct name of the movie. You'll win yourself a point.
Steve will start us off this round. Here's your first question, Steve, on The King and IMAX. There have been 3 film adaptations of this 1977 play about an optimistic red-headed orphan whose luck turns on a dime when she lives with a billionaire over the holidays, the latest of which was produced by Jay-Z and Will Smith, with Jamie Foxx as Daddy Warbucks. Is that A, Annie, B, Matilda, or C, Oliver?
That is A, Annie.
A, Annie is correct.
It's not a hard knock life for Steve, I'll tell you that much.
No, man, really good job.
Thank
dude.
you.
Nicely
I actually
done.
like the Jamie Foxx adaptation.
It's not bad. But I appreciated what they did with the movie. Jordan, your first question here on The King and IMAX. The 2002 Rob Marshall film adaptation of this 1975 musical set in the 1920s jazz age featuring Roxy Hart, Velma Kelly, and Murder won 6 Oscars, including Best Picture and Best Supporting Actor for Catherine Zeta-Jones. Is that A, Dreamgirls, B, Chicago, or C, Cabaret?
Yeah, I'm going to say Chicago, but I don't know. Also, Jamie Foxx didn't actually play Daddy Warbucks. He played a character who's based off of Daddy Warbucks, but was a billionaire running for...
100% they did change the name of Daddy Warbucks to a different name.
Jordan, thank you for
this is why we have
fact-checking.
Jordan on. In real time fact checking. I love
But
that.
is he right about Chicago?
He is right about
Ooh.
Chicago. Chicago is correct, and quite a film. I would highly recommend that film.
All right.
Quite a film. You seen Chicago?
I've never seen it. Me and Jordan were too busy watching Camp Rock.
Camp Rock, that's right, of course. In 2002, I don't think you were, but it's neither here nor there. All right, it's tied once again. Steve, the board is back to you. We're talking musical movie adaptations in a game we're calling The King and IMAX. Here's your next question. John Chu's Part 1 of this 2003 Broadway play starring Idina Menzel and Kristen Chenoweth was certainly popular at the megaplexes, becoming the highest-grossing film adaptation of a Broadway musical in box office history. Is that A, Jersey Boys, B, Wicked, or C, Into the Woods?
I think I know the answer, but tell me that year again.
2003.
Oh, maybe I don't. I'm going to say it anyway. Wicked.
Wicked is correct.
Oh.
Steve, the Broadway play was in 2003.
Yes.
The movie was a couple of years ago.
Yes. Into the woods to see the things to do, the stuff and hit of hang. Who, what, when?
My harms were on point.
They were
All
really
right,
good.
Jordan, board is back to you. Chance to tie this thing back up. Movie musical adaptations. Here's your question. Described as a jukebox musical based on songs recorded by Swedish group ABBA, this 1999 musical about a girl searching for her father was a huge hit at the box office in 2008, as it starred Meryl Streep, Amanda Seyfried, Colin Firth, and Pierce Brosnan. Such a big hit, it spawned a sequel. Is that A, Mamma Mia, B, And Juliet, or C, Moulin Rouge?
I'm going to say Mamma Mia.
He's going to say Mamma Mia, and once again, he is correct.
We have a battle on our
Real
hands.
barn burner. Real Broadway
battle.
barn burner.
Oh, very good. I like that too.
That's right. You
It's
said
a
I did
Broadway
that.
it's a Broadway barn burner battle.
So say
It's
that 3 times
It's
fast.
a quad B.
Quad B. I don't know. All right, here we go, Steve. Your next question here on The King and IMAX. Hamilton wasn't Broadway's first foray into adapting the story of our founding fathers into a musical, as this William Daniels-led musical was also in the Rogers Theater in New York and then adapted into a film also starring William Daniels as John Adams. Is that A, Washington's Monumental Men, B, 1776, or C, Johnny A. Superstar?
Well, I happen to be a U.S. history teacher,
My man.
and I know this one, and it's 1776.
Shout out to Steve.
Shout out.
For doing a job still that I did for 20 years, and he's probably doing it better than me. Steve, did you ever utilize 1776 in your classroom?
There's a movie of that, and I showed it many, many, many times.
There you
with
go.
Al
Because
Pacino.
Steve is on the record saying he's never seen a play. So
That's right.
the movie version makes sense.
Yeah,
Since we're on this side rabbit, how long have you been teaching U.S. history?
40 years. Actually, I just retired. 40
years. So do you remember the exact moment when kids stopped thinking 1776 was cool and started thinking it was so corny and silly? I remember.
Well, I remember Hamilton just brought kids back
That's
to
right.
life.
Yeah, it did.
They
Yeah.
wanted to know all about that era.
Did you do Hamilton in the classroom? Did you play some of that?
The kids, sometimes there was a project where kids were able to act out scenes. Yeah.
That's
fun.
fantastic. I love it.
Yeah.
That's right. 40 years teaching U.S. history shows up on a pretty good week, in all honesty, all things considered. All right.
He retired and came straight
right.
to Who, What, When.
That's right. As you do. That is
Yes,
the normal.
absolutely.
Yeah,
Some people go to Disney World.
Hey, and
some
that
people come to
first
Who, What,
Social
When.
Security check and pension from the South Carolina Public Schools, you don't have to spend it on a fanny pack if you win, Steve. You keep that right in your pocket.
That's true.
All right, Jordan, your next question here on the King and IMAX musical movie adaptations. This American musical by Mark Shyman, set in the world of the 1960s style dance music, was actually based on a 1988 John Waters film.
Oh.
But then the musical stage adaptation was adapted into a 2007 Adam Shankman film starring Zac Efron and John Travolta, let's say like you've never seen him before. Is that A, Guys and Dolls, B, Hairspray, or C, Hello Dolly?
Honestly, I have no clue, but I'm just gonna say Guys and Dolls.
He's going to say Guys and Dolls. Not a bad guess. We're looking for Hairspray.
Ooh.
Hairspray.
That's tough.
Yeah, Zac Efron straying far from High School Musical to sing and dance in Hairspray.
So this is a movie musical
Yes.
turned a stage musical turned back into a movie musical. Wow, how about
Yeah,
that?
that's right.
What a journey.
John Travolta plays the mom. Yes.
There you go.
Yeah. All right, Steve, a chance to take a commanding 2-point lead here late in round 2. It's the King and IMAX. These are movie musical adaptations. Here's your question. The infamous duo of Rodgers and Hammerstein's fifth collaboration together wrought this 1951 stage adaptation of the memoirs of Anna Lenowens and her time in modern-day Thailand before being adapted for the big screen in both 1956 and 1999. Is that A, My Fair Lady, B, The Sound of Music, or C, The King and I?
King and I.
The King and IMAX is the name of the game. The King and I is the name of the film.
Wow.
Steve is correct.
How about that?
Once again, nicely done, Steve. Jordan, the pressure is officially
It sure
on.
is.
Your next question, we're talking movie, musical adaptations. Here it comes. Opening on Broadway in 1987 and telling the many-faceted, musically tinged stories of the French Revolution, its 2012 adaptation got a lot of buzz for the actors actually singing during their filmed scenes, notably Anne Hathaway as Fantine and, curiously, Russell Crowe as Inspector Javert. A, Miss Saigon. B, Ragtime. C, Les Miserables.
I'm gonna say Les Miserables, and by the way, the Wicked movie did that too. It was awesome.
That's right. The Wicked movie did. Most musicals have taken some of what I think it was.
Changed the game.
It was
yeah.
Tom Hooper who directed that movie. What he decided to do there. A lot of musicals have changed how they've done things because of
For the better,
Because
in my
of the
opinion.
correct answer that Jordan did give us, which is Les Miserables.
There
That
you
is
go.
correct. Jordan back on the board. It's a 1-point game. Steve, a chance to try to put it out of reach here in a perfect category for you. Your last question here on the King and IMAX. Mel Brooks didn't just make generational comedies like Spaceballs, Robin Hood Men in Tights, and Blazing Saddles. He also took his 1967 film about a play that goes oh so very wrong, turned it into a very successful stage play in 2001, then spawned a film of the play starring Matthew Broderick, Nathan Lane, Uma Thurman, and Will Ferrell. Is that A, The Producers, B, Something Rotten, or C, The Book of Mormon?
Oh boy, no, it wasn't that. It's not the Book of Mormon. The first one, it's the first one. What's the first one again?
The first one is The Producers.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah, that's the one. Steve is correct. Without ever saying it, Steve is correct.
He refuses to say the
It
Producers.
is The Producers. Nicely done. Perfect round,
Very
Steve.
good.
All right, Jordan, last question. Here we go.
You need it.
King and IMAX. Andrew Lloyd Webber's 1986 show about a disfigured musical genius who haunts a certain house in Paris was remade in 2004, starring a young Gerard Butler and directed by, checks notes, Batman Forever director Joel Schumacher? A, Sweeney Todd. B, Jekyll and Hyde. C, Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera.
Phantom of the Opera. He knew it without blinking. It is Phantom of the Opera. Excellent job. And at the end of our second round, what a match we had.
It's been amazing.
Steve from Conway, South Carolina with 9 out of 10 correct answers. Jordan from North Charleston, South Carolina, 8 out of 10 correct answers. Jordan from North Charleston. What a great player, a valiant effort. Good luck in 13, which you're going to be in your community theater production. Good luck working on it. Thanks for joining us, Jordan, this week on Who What When.
A good actor knows when to take a bow. Good luck, Steve.
Good one. Good one, Jordan.
I love this guy.
Thank you, Jordan.
So great.
This is Who What When. I'm Brandon Gray. Here with my friend Daniel Thompson. You want a revolution? I want a revocation. That's right. Today, our topic is the history of Broadway.
That's the worst one yet, and I have had enough, even though I really haven't, because I love Hamilton so much. Brand, I'm cutting you off from the Hamilton puns. Don't make me replace you with an understudy. I will do it.
Yeah.
Our contestants, Jordan and Steve, deserve a hearty round of applause for their stellar performances today. Steve has come out on top in our first 2 rounds, which means he's our Who What When Champion of the Week. And dear Theodosia, that's not all. What? He now gets to advance to our final game with a chance to take home a very special Who What When fanny pack.
That's coming up right after this break here on Who What When.
Welcome back to Who What When, an hour of history, games, and trivia from South Carolina Public Radio. I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray, and this week we're lighting the lights and treading the boards with an episode about Broadway history. And we're going to get back to our games in just a few moments, but first it's time for an Educator Spotlight.
That's right, Brian. Every so often we have the privilege of chatting with experts on the topics we cover. And on today's episode, we're so excited to speak with David Armstrong, who has worked in theater for 40 years, including acting as the artistic director at Seattle's Fifth Avenue Theater from 2000 to 2018. He now teaches at the University of Washington School of Drama, hosts the Broadway Nation podcast about the history of Broadway musicals, and wrote a book by that same name. David, welcome to Who What When.
My pleasure to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. I want to start out with what might be the toughest question you'll get all day. What is Broadway? More specifically, like, what makes a Broadway musical a Broadway musical? What is it about a production like that sets it apart from other stage shows that happen?
Well, at heart, Broadway is a location. It's a street in New York. It's a specific set of blocks in the Times Square Theater District. So in some ways, you could say that a Broadway musical is a musical that is produced in one of the 41 official Broadway theaters. But of course, Broadway, beyond that, as you just alluded to, is a brand. It's an aura. It's a zeitgeist. When you say the word Broadway, it means something to people all around the world. And how do you define that? How do you tie that down? I think when you're talking about a Broadway musical, you're talking about a large-scale entertainment that tells a story. Most usually tells a story using music, lyrics, and dance as the primary vehicles for telling that story.
I think that's more than fair. I mean, in our episode today, we've talked about shows that premiered in the West End, in London, even though it's Broadway musicals. Specifically when it comes to New York City, though, David, tell us a little bit more about that geographic history of Broadway. These theaters right now are all very close to basically Times Square in Manhattan. Was that always the case?
Well, the Broadway Theater District was always on Broadway, but as New York moved uptown over the 19th century, the theater district moved with it. So if you went back to the 1880s or so, the theaters would all be nestled around 14th Street. Then they moved up to Herald Square at 34th Street, and then they moved up to Times Square as Times Square was being created, where it became Times Square in I think 1903, if I'm correct on that, named after the New York Times. And that's when the theaters at the same time were moving into that district. And then they have stayed there for the whole 20th and 21st century. They didn't continue to move uptown the way they had prior to that.
Fascinating.
I'm over here being like a dummy that I didn't realize Times Square was named after the New York Times, but that's neither here nor there. What is there a production that we can point to that you would consider to be the first of what kind of fits the modern definition of a Broadway show?
First of anything are really hard to pin down because it's an evolution of things that come before it. There's all sorts of precursors to the Broadway musical. But if you pinned me down, I'd have to say that among the first Broadway musicals that we would recognize as Broadway musicals, that if we could get in the time machine and go back in time and see, we would go, oh yeah, that's a Broadway musical. That is, even though it's very different than a show that might be on Broadway today, we still would recognize that it's the same basic kind of thing. And I would say those are the musicals of George M. Cohan, whose first show was a show called Little Johnny Jones, in which he created not only the template for the Broadway musical comedy, he's often called the father of the musical comedy. He also wrote two songs in that show that are still very much with us today. There was Yankee Doodle Boy, the I'm a Yankee Doodle Dandy, a real live nephew of my Uncle Sam song, and also Give My Regards to Broadway, which has remained the anthem of Broadway for what now is 125 years later, practically. So I think we can point to that. And Cohan is an incredible immigrant creator. He was an Irish, the children of Irish immigrants. And at a time when the Irish were very, very much second, if not third or fourth class citizens in this country, they were highly discriminated against, especially Irish Catholics. And he had the temerity to come out on stage and declare himself a Yankee Doodle Dandy, the real live nephew of his Uncle Sam, which I relate very much to what Lin-Manuel Miranda is doing still today with Hamilton, where he's saying, we immigrants get to tell this story too. We're just as American as anybody else. We're just as worthy of being considered American as anybody else.
Absolutely. And speaking of which is a great segue here. Your book, David, Broadway Nation, the subtitle is How Immigrant, Jewish, Queer, and Black Artists Invented the Broadway Musical. These are four very marginalized groups. You already talked about immigrants, some in your previous answer. Thinking back to the early 1900s, especially marginalized, what was it about theater and the entertainment industry more broadly that gave these artists a place to invent and to flourish?
That's one of the questions that fascinated me as I was doing the research, first to teach my course and then for the book. Why did this happen? Why are literally 90% of the creators, maybe higher than that, of the creators of the Broadway musical and the the inventors of it, why do 90% of them come from these marginalized groups? And it started to become clear to me because it was a field of endeavor that was open to them when almost no other fields of endeavor were, because throughout the history for centuries, anybody involved as an actor, singer, dancer, musician, acrobat, juggler, anything that had to do with what we'd call show business today was considered just one step away from vagabonds and prostitutes. They were not acceptable to polite society, to the establishment. So as show business is starting to emerge at the turn of the 20th century, there becomes this demand for shows, for entertainers, for entertainment, but nice people, quote, respectable people won't participate in it. They'll go see it, but they wouldn't dream of appearing on a stage. The Puritan values of America very much, went against displaying yourself on a stage as a man, much less as a woman. So this opportunity then was available to gay people, to Jewish people, to immigrants, to Black people who couldn't afford to have those kinds of, restrictions. They had this opportunity. If they had the talent, there was now a place where they could not only find employment, but be at the height, at levels of leadership in a way that I don't think happened in almost any other field of endeavor in America.
That's fascinating. I do want to talk a little bit about the 4 big names from Broadway history. What can you tell us about those big names and what makes those big names the big names when we're talking about Broadway?
I think you're alluding to the middle section of my book where I talk about this legacy change. And I would not say they are the only 4 big names in the history of Broadway. But one of the things that fascinates me about this history is that it's sort of like a medieval craft guild. It's passed down from person to person individually over the century and, almost a century and a half now of endeavor. And I became fascinated by that idea, and I decided to focus on one of those, what I call legacy chains, which starts with a man named Otto Harbach, who writes his first musical in the teens, is very successful. He is then matched up with a young man named Oscar Hammerstein II, who wants to be a writer of musicals, who wants to be a lyricist. And he and Otto Harbach then work together for about a decade on a number of big hit Broadway musicals and operettas. Then Oscar Hammerstein II, of course, breaks off on his own, writes the musical Showboat, eventually teams up with Richard Rodgers to become Rodgers and Hammerstein. And then Hammerstein, by sort of a quirk of fate, becomes the surrogate father of a young man named Stephen Sondheim, who literally sort of grows up in the Hammerstein house. He sort of escapes his own house to the Hammersteins and then is taught very specifically to how to write musicals. He said he had an education that no one else could ever have because he just admired Hammerstein so much. And then Sondheim, because of this experience that he had, is very much a teacher and a mentor to many artists of the contemporary era, but especially Lin-Manuel Miranda, Lin-Manuel Miranda, when he's writing his shows, is sending the drafts to Sondheim and talking to him about it and literally being, mentored and coached by him. So in those 4 individuals, Otto Harbach, Oscar Hammerstein II, Stephen Sondheim, and Lin-Manuel Miranda, you basically have the entire history of the Broadway musical encompassed in 4 individuals, 4 degrees of separation there, which I just find really, really fascinating.
I've got to get this book like yesterday. This sounds so fascinating. And speaking of Sondheim, I'd love to talk a little bit, David, about West Side Story, probably one of the most famous Broadway musicals. And when it debuted in 1957, where did it fit into this history? Specifically, there were 4 main creative forces that all kind of worked on this behind the scenes together.
Absolutely. 3 very famous individuals at that time and 1 young man joining the team. The director, choreographer, conceiver of West Side Story was Jerome Robbins, who was a legend and remained a legend on Broadway. The composer was Leonard Bernstein, who I don't think needs any introduction, one of the greatest composers of all time. The book writer was Arthur Lawrence, very famous both as a screenwriter and for writing the books to Broadway musicals. And then Stephen Sondheim was the new guy, the new kid on the block, as was the lyricist of that show. And it sort of exemplifies in some ways part of what my book is about, because all four of those individuals are gay and Jewish. And they were allowed to be or able to be, could find their place, could claim their place at the head of the table in the Broadway, in the superstructure of Broadway. They were the creators, the leaders of this show, and it sort of represents that opportunity that was available there and almost nowhere else.
I want to talk about how you kind of feel like the business is right now for Broadway. Obviously, COVID-19 messed with Broadway, shut down the shows, and out of it, it's kind of just an interesting time, like it is for a lot of the entertainment industry. Where is Broadway at right now, and what do you kind of see for the future of Broadway based on where we are right now?
I wish I had a crystal ball. I am worried, however. COVID broke the pattern, broke the habits of the audience to a great extent on Broadway, and especially in the regional theaters across America, probably the same thing there in South Carolina. The audience has not come back in the levels that they had before. That we don't see that, certainly not on Broadway. A Broadway producer recently told me that the audience is down about 10% and costs are up about 10%, which is not sustainable. So how we solve this problem, I don't really, is not clear yet. Some of it is happening. A lot of shows now are being developed in the West End in London because costs are so much cheaper there. Then you have to get at why are costs so much cheaper there. Salaries are lower, the cost of goods, and the Broadway musical can't be mass produced. It's a one-off. Everything is produced. Everything is handcrafted for that show. And as I used to tell my board of directors when I ran the Fifth Avenue Theater in Seattle, I would say you can't downsize West Side Story. It takes the same number of sharks and the same number of jets as it did in 1957. And if you do it right, it takes the same number of people in the orchestra, and it takes actually more people backstage because the technical aspects of theater have gotten so much more complicated since then. So it's a fixed cost that can't be reduced, and it's all labor. And of course, labor is expensive, and people should be paid. These are great artists who are giving their work to these shows. They should be compensated. How we then pay for it is then the question, I think, that is the challenge right now. And raising ticket prices is already becoming a problem because you just can't raise them. I mean, we have $300 tickets sometimes now on Broadway, and that's not sustainable either, I don't think.
David, I'm going to go a little off script here. I'd love to hear your all-time favorite stage Broadway play, but I also want to know if you think these very successful film adaptations are helping this like kind of early crisis on Broadway, or they're hurting. I'm thinking of the box office boom of Wicked, John Chu's Wicked, Spielberg's West Side Story.
Sure.
The film adaptation of Broadway musicals has been around a long time, but it seems like specifically with Wicked.
I think it's definitely helping raising the profile of Broadway, expanding the audience for Broadway is definitely a good thing. And by that, I mean for the Broadway musical. We went through a period in the 70s and 80s where the generation didn't understand the language of the Broadway musical. They didn't grow up the way the baby boomers had, and I'm on the last end of the baby boom. We grew up with the idea that, of course, you tell a story that way. Of course, people sing and dance. And that we went then through sort of with Gen X, I think to a certain extent, a generation that didn't experience that and thought it was weird, thought it was not realistic, thought it was odd. I always then would say, well, you don't think people singing and dancing is real, but also vampires aren't real and superheroes aren't real either. So why do you accept one more than the other? But I digress. The current generation, which grew up partly with the Disney musicals, the Disney movie, the animated musicals, and then the resurgence of Broadway, both on television and on stage and in the movies, has just really expanded the opportunity for the audience. We just need to get them into the theater. And just specifically, the movies of Wicked have kept the show running on Broadway, have renewed the desire to see the show live on Broadway and across the country. So it's definitely something that is a positive thing. In terms of my favorite, it's very hard to pin down one Broadway musical that I love the most. It changes all the time, but I usually have if I had to pick the top three, I would say they are Gypsy, musical written by Stephen Sondheim and Julie Stein and Arthur Lawrence. The Music Man is one of my all-time favorites, and Company, another Stephen Sondheim. So those are the three that probably vie for that top spot. And but that doesn't mean I love a bunch of shows that are currently on Broadway as well. Wicked, I think, is a fantastic show, and of course Hamilton. What's so interesting about Hamilton for me is it really is a traditional Broadway musical told with contemporary music, but Broadway musicals were always using contemporary music. So I think he did a brilliant job of synthesizing those things together.
This has been unbelievable, David. Thank you so much for joining us. David Armstrong is a professor at the University of Washington's School of Drama. He also hosts the podcast Broadway Nation and is the author of a book with that same name. David, really enjoyed having you on the show. Thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure. I really enjoyed talking with you.
This is Who, What, When, an hour of history, games, and trivia. I'm Daniel Thompson here with my good buddy Brandon Gray, and this week our topic is the history of musicals.
And before we get to our final game, a reminder that love doesn't discriminate between the Quizzers and the Saints. The Saints.
What did I tell you about Hamilton bits,
I
Brandon?
love it. I promise you, though, Dan, that's the last one, because once you hear the next set of puns, you'll be green with envy that you didn't think of them.
So you're just switching to Wicked now?
I only know two, okay? Let's just say I'm through with playing by the rules of someone else's game. But first, one more quick reminder that we would love for you to join us for a future episode of the show. You just got to call or text us, 803-470-6347. One more time, take out your phone, 803-470-6347, or you can send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
Brandon, I guess you could say you only like the popular musicals.
I only like popular.
Our contestant, Steve from South Carolina, is our champion of the week. And now there's only one round standing between him and a Who, What, When fanny pack. It's a game we're calling Broadway or Fraudway.
Steve, here's how Broadway or Fraudway will work. Dan will read you a synopsis of a bizarre musical plot. Some of these musicals will be real, so they're Broadway. And others will be ones made up by Dan, so they are Fraudway. Get 5 out of the 8 of these questions correct. You will take home your very own Who, What, When fanny pack.
All right, Steve, here's your first question. A young Clarice Starling on the hunt for a serial killer, relying on the services of famed killer and cannibal Hannibal Lecter, is the plot for the very dark film Silence of the Lambs. But it's also the inspiration for Silence, the musical, a 2005 off-Broadway musical parody of the film. Is that Broadway or Fraudway?
I think that's Broadway.
You would think it's Fraudway, Steve.
Oh, no.
But it's Broadway.
Oh, my goodness.
I guess I missed that one.
Yeah, Silence the musical. What a time to be alive. Those folks up in New York, they'll do anything. You know what I mean?
I tell you what.
Silence the musical. What in the world?
What's the tone of the music?
Yeah, I don't know, man. I
gotta go see it.
Yeah, I mean, listen, when I did research for this, there are dozens of these that we could not say on
Sure,
public.
sure.
Dozens of these that wouldn't have made the cut for content. Just letting you know.
It's wild out there.
Go look it up. Not even podcast. I read 2 out loud to Brandon. He goes, you can't say that on the show. Here we go. Broadway or Fraudway, Steve? Let's get back on the horse. Raggedy Ann the musical premiered on Broadway in 1986, playing for 3 days before being shut down due to an overwhelmingly negative response, primarily from parents, because the structure included a full-size doll come to life, leading a young girl on a fever dream quest to save her life.
Wow.
Broadway or Fraudway?
I'll tell you what, it sounds compelling. I would see that. So I'm going to go ahead and say Broadway.
It sounds compelling. This is Broadway. He is correct. He's on the
Steve's
board.
first play ever would be Raggedy Ann the Musical.
I got to be honest,
Right.
Steve. Go and look up a production still from this particular play. It will haunt your nightmares. You don't want to see it. But if you do, go for it. Totally fine. All right, he's on the board. He needs 4 more for the Fanny. I got 6 questions left. Let's see if he can tell me if this is Broadway or Fraudway. A tale as old as time. An elite Victorian-era bachelor must teach etiquette, table manners, and the art of the ballroom dance to a young sea monster? That was the pitch for My Fair Kraken, which premiered. Are you okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Which premiered in 1988 and also coincidentally closed that very same year. Is that Broadway or Fraudway?
That's Broadway.
That's Broadway, he said confidently. Steve, in 1988, you could have. No, I'm just kidding. It's Fraudway.
Yes.
It's
I
Fraudway.
think Kraken is a modern word, by the way. I don't think that was around in 88.
Oh, really? I'm pretty sure people talk.
All right, you
Kraken
two
is-
history guys.
I was about to say, Kraken's been around a long time, I feel like.
Oh, okay. Well, either way, it sounds
Not in
it sounds
U.S.
like Broadway.
history. Not in U.S.
Hey,
history.
it doesn't matter where Steve got the answer. He's got it right.
2. He needs 3 more for that Fanny. We got 5 questions left. Is this next musical plot line Broadway or Fraudway? Bring Back Birdie was the 1981 Broadway sequel to the smash hit Bye Bye Birdie, focusing on Conrad Birdie's comeback at the Grammys after being discharged from the U.S. Army, among many other seemingly disconnected plot lines that caused the show to close in under a week. Broadway or Fraudway?
Gosh, that sounds plausible. I'm going to go Broadway.
I can't believe he got it right. It's
Wow,
Broadway.
how about that?
Bye Bye Birdie smash hit. What if we have a sequel called Bring Back
Bring back
Birdie?
Birdie.
Yeah.
They tried it. Broadway tried it. And
Disaster.
Steve knew it.
Only 1 week, huh?
That's right.
That's
1
tough.
week. Yeah, it's tough. It's tough out there. All right, Steve, you need 2 more for that fanny pack. Playing Broadway or Fraudway? Here we go. Before the box office disaster of a film in 2012 called The Watch, there was this 2003 Broadway play called Neighborhood Watch, the musical, which starred a group of suburban acquaintances convinced their neighborhood is being taken over by extraterrestrials.
Okay.
Broadway or Fraudway?
That also sounds plausible, but I haven't heard of it, and I think I would have, so I'm going to say Broadway.
He's going to say Fraudway. He is correct.
Wow, he's cooking now.
Going
How
to be
about
tough to
that?
get one past Steve. All right, Steve.
I would
let me-
watch that, though.
Yeah,
That sounds great.
The movie sucks, but yeah, that musical sounds really great. And that movie's got like Ben Stiller, Vince Vaughn, Jonah Hill. It's just not good. All right, Steve, here's where we sit. There are 3 questions left, Broadway or Fraudway. All you need is one of those, and you're going to be the proud owner of a Who What When fanny pack. Well, they can't all be hits. Just ask Andrew Lloyd Webber after he penned Love Never Dies, a sequel to Phantom of the Opera where Raoul is an alcoholic and Christine has a child that's actually the Phantoms.
Ooh.
Is that Broadway or Fraudway?
Phantom of the Opera. I'm going to go ahead and say Broadway.
He's going to say Fraudway? That is incorrect.
Ooh.
I almost said
Incorrect.
Broadway.
How about a sequel to Phantom of the Opera
Wow.
where Christine is having the Phantom's love child?
Did it do well?
No, it closed really quickly.
Oh,
it was
man,
kind of
that's
a mess
wild.
out there.
Yeah.
Kind of a mess out there. Look it up, though. It's wild. All right, Steve. 2 left. It's getting real. You need one of these, Broadway or Fraudway, for that fanny pack. Here we go. Shakespeare's Hamlet has been remade countless times, being covered by stage, screen, and page, but few would be as memorable as the 1976 Broadway play Rockabye Hamlet, which was set like a concert and featured Ophelia strangling herself with a microphone cord.
Oh, my gosh.
Broadway or Fraudway?
Tough one. I'll say Broadway.
He said Broadway, and he is correct. It is Broadway. Rockabye Hamlet. Yikes.
That's tough.
Steve from Conway, South Carolina, a retired history teacher of 40 years. Thanks for educating youth for 4 decades, and congratulations. You're the Who What When Champion of the Week, and you're the proud owner of a well-earned Who What When fanny pack.
Wow.
Steve, thanks for playing.
I'm beaming with pride. Thank you.
Absolutely.
That's a curtain close on a gravity-defying Broadway episode of Who, What, When. Thanks again to our contestants, Steve and Jordan, for choosing to spend their time dancing through life with us. And congratulations to Steve on winning the title of Champion of the Week, because we knew you. We have been changed for good.
Sydney Wilcox is our production assistant. Our producer is A.T. Shire, and our executive producer is the wickedly talented one and only Adele Dazeem. Sorry, I mean Sean Bursch. This show is a production of South Carolina Public Radio, made possible in part by listener contributions to the ETV Endowment of South Carolina.
To join us for an episode of Who, What, When, just call or text us at 803-470-6347 or send us an email to whowhatwhen@scpublicradio.org.
You can find out more about the show at our website, whowhatwhenshow.org.
And you can listen to an extended version of the show on your favorite podcast app or through your smart speaker.
I'm Daniel Thompson.
And I'm Brandon Gray. Join us again next week for more history, games, and trivia right here on Who, What, When?